Detroit is different. Stank and stronger. Detroit is different. Yeah. Power five.
Detroit is different, and we are live on set. Not in Detroit is different. We're actually in a recreation center. And it's a recreation center named after someone that, if you follow the history of Detroit is different, she has one of the most shared clips and reels ever in Detroit is different history. So you'd be thinking to yourself like it happened a long time ago, but not really. It's just that more so her story is so dynamic that many people connect to it. I mean, just think about getting a recreation center named after you. So if you really know Detroit, and you know Detroit is different, you already know where we at. Queen Mother Helen Moore, how are you today?
Oh, I'm just great being here with one of my children.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We go way back.
So enough, your mother was a grand member of our group.
Thank you.
And the center, she kept the flowers going. She watered everything. Great knowing her.
Definitely. Just because, you know, when your mom calls, sometimes you got to extend and be places because, you know, you're going to listen. So it was a couple times I had to get up this way and drop some things off, interact with some little homies and all that.
Right on.
And when we think about the center now, the Helen Moore Center, before the Dexter-Elmhurst Center, and it was something you advocated for years. And from our interview, you should check the archives if you got access to Detroit is different. It was something that really, as it came about, you've been here in this neighborhood connecting with young people for a lifetime.
A lifetime, over 50 years.
And it's like, wow.
That's a whole lot of time and effort. Almost lost the center, but we have it now. It's better than it was before.
Much better. And it's so many people that definitely have been in the effort in community. You uplift my mom, Brother Victor Gibson, so many others.
Yes.
Even Fred Durrell III was very much active in, you know, city council. And also when he was a state rep, and so many others of saying like, look, we want to make sure that we're present for this journey. And for so long, I mean, when you think about the repairs that were needed here, too many people said that, you know, really that place needs to be torn down.
They did.
We need to be thinking about doing something else, but you stayed committed. What was the commitment to this center?
Well, when I started off, you know, I was at Wayne State University, and I did my work over here for classes and everything, and the people over there came over with me to see what I was doing and give me a grade on it.
Okay.
So even before that time, we used the center as a way to show people what people could do, like myself, when we were in school. So after I went to Wayne State University, got my law degree from Detroit College of Law, kept going as far as the center was concerned. It was most important for me to keep the center and never leave it.
Yeah, and when we think about just the arcs of this center being here for so long, I mean, I remember the car wash that was next door. I think I probably spent more time there as I got older. At one point in time, Malcolm X's grassroots movement was right down Dexter as well. When we even think about so many other organizations, as I say, I mean, I think Dexter was the first place where McDonald's existed and it didn't come no more.
Yes, this place was loaded with people that, like yourself, and all the other people that we see today were in the center.
Yeah.
And sometimes there were bad people in here too, like the gangs and everything. But for some reason, they respected us. We talked to them when they came in. I said, look, don't bring none of that in here. And they respected it.
Well, when it comes to basketball culture, it would be some definitely active games that took place here over time. You hear about, I mean, even similar to the Homer and Davidson court. And if you're familiar with this community and this neighborhood, sometimes, yes, things can get, what would I say, interpersonal conflicts.
That's right. You got it right.
Yes, you know what I'm saying, from time to time.
I got used to that, but you know, it was respect all over. You know, I didn't tell them you don't belong. We talked, and they actually respected this place.
Yeah. And I mean, even as we see like the name, as I was like, man, you got a basketball tournament. So it's like, as you see, if you can focus, it's like 14 under, 17 and under player registration right now. So it's different waves of young people having access to play basketball. This happens in many rec centers, but here, because this hasn't been activated in so long, I just remember walking in when I came to say, talk about this shoot, seeing some of the young guys like, man, and just kind of like looking, observing the court. It's a little bit different because now you're going to get people to get the opportunity to establish themselves as like, yeah, I'm making this court.
Do you remember some of the people that were part of coming in here every day? Some of the young people, some of them are very famous now. What you got? All kinds of people that played basketball. And sometimes the other day, there was one of the guys came in here early when I was over here. I forgot his name, but he was a basketball player, and as tall as he was, I knew he was a basketball player.
Well, it definitely helps. Height can help if you plan on pursuing professional basketball.
Got that right, yes.
You know, I would say the player I remember most over here, rest in peace, Tractor Trailer, you know, and his family, kind of just west side Detroiters and a little bit of east side, but also Carlos Rogers, shout out Northwestern Mighty Coats.
Right.
Mighty Coats, but many other players, when we even think about like the legacy of NFL Hall of Famer, but heck of a basketball player of Antonio Gates, and that is this community big time. We would call him GOAT before I think even people said like greatest of all times, but he was an excellent basketball player. I think more people know him as a football player. I mean, he made the Football Hall of Fame, but this was definitely one of the courts where he made famous.
Well, one day I came in here after 11 o'clock, it opened at 11, and this guy was getting out of his car, and I was, and he knew me, and he was very famous. He was so tall, I was wondering, I know you're somebody famous because as tall as you are, you had to play basketball.
Yes.
So he gave me his name. I forgot his name, but anyway, he came in, and he comes over here all the time. Some of the others do, too.
That's cool. And I told you tomorrow, like, we're recording this the day before a ceremony honoring my godmother, Joanne Watson.
My friend.
That's going on at Central Field with Central Field and what that connection is.
Tomorrow.
2 o'clock tomorrow.
I'll be there.
I'm part of the co-hosting team, so myself and Monica Lewis Patrick. But being a part of DPS, it puts Terrence Willer, and I said I'm gonna definitely connect you to T. Willer. I even called him before this started, as what he does in community with DPS, I already know just the energy in the field and his connection to so many athletes. Definitely that bond with Derek Coleman, another player that definitely walked over this way, and definitely good games. But along with so much in basketball, also we're in the art room, and a lot of artists got their start here as well.
Yeah, you know, my grandson is an artist, Mario Moore.
Mario is one of the best artists I've ever seen as far as like to
me too.
Freehand.
I got to tell you, when he was a little boy, about 3 years old, I had to babysit for him at lunchtime, and so I'd bring him home, and he'd sit on the floor, and I'd give him some paper, and he'd start drawing. So I come out of the kitchen with his peanut butter sandwich. He thought that was the greatest thing in the world.
I mean, at three.
That's right. So he was drawing on the floor, 3 years old. If you saw this picture, you wouldn't believe it. It was just so great, and everything was exactly right. And so I said, Mario, where'd you get that from? I drew it. I said, Mario, stop lying to your grandma because you did not draw that picture. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. We had a big argument. So I said, okay, draw something else. Start drawing. I've never seen anything like it. 3 years old. And he's been all overseas, and he's studied in Rome and everywhere. And he's still Mario, the Helen Moore's black grandson. He's still that way, and he paints that way too. If you noticed all his painting, black folks.
Yeah, Mario, I know him more from the hip hop world of like almost so many album covers, logos, things that people would see. And also, Mario is one of those very talented artists that not only can draw, paint, but also when it comes to the computer, he was one of the first that I saw like really just run circle. So when I found out he was your grandson, I was like, wow, I didn't even make that connection. It was actually Con that's been going to church with you guys for forever. That was like, you know that Mario, I was like, for real? I was like, nah, man.
There's another one, my child.
Yeah.
Is Cass Tech. All my children, all 4 went to Cass Tech. And there's another one, he just retired from the government, Helen Moore. You won't see too much about him in the news because he had such a secret job. Down there in Knoxville, down there in Tennessee, and I can't talk about a lot of stuff because it was secretive.
Okay, well, I definitely don't want you to get James Bond caught in any situation.
Pretty much like that, tell you the truth.
But we definitely know the Tennessee connection, as that was one of the reels that people just couldn't believe about the history of your grandfather from enslavement.
Grandpa Rice, he was a slave. And its whole history is, as far as I'm concerned, I carried it on and acted the same way he did. My grandfather was a slave, and he was very slick with the things he did. And the white people kind of liked him, but, you know, back in those days, slavery stopped. And he helped build a lot of buildings down there. In fact, his name is on a lot of, in Newport, Tennessee. So if y'all go to Newport, Tennessee, near Knoxville, you go there, you'll see the recreation center that he built. It's in his name and the Rice's name and a whole lot of other things. So some pretty good people in my family that loved our people and fought all their lives for us to be free. And we aren't free yet.
Well, definitely, it's more triumphs to come. And when we talk about legacy, it's like your granddad had a rec center, you got a rec center. So it's just carrying on even in that. And also in that same legacy of from our interview, you just speaking about the 43 race riots and just where you stood with your father and many of the other men from the community, welcoming you all and walking you all out the school as definitely Bedlam was happening amongst many of the white residents that were physically assaulting.
Well, you know, when we moved to Detroit, we lived on 12th Street. So all that went on there, and we were part of that went on. My family, my dad and my mama, we lived on 12th Street. And so I have a long history. It seems that everything I do brings me back to us. I'm never away from our people. I'm never one of these people that's always trying to be white or whatever. My family is full of slaves. Some of them are white and some of them are black. Some deal with us. Some do not deal with us. We have a reunion every year. The whites, a lot of them do not come, but a lot of them do come. So in my family, we got everything going, and anybody that doesn't act right ain't in the family no more. So I'm just letting you know, we kind of tough.
I would only imagine that, as so much of my connection begins with you with the Keep the Vote No Takeover movement. And that is something that certainly stands as a time that really, I would say, like kind of bookends and anchors a wave of things that happened to the city of Detroit. Many unfortunate, as you talk about some of the ways that we don't necessarily have freedoms, even to this day. A lot of the ways that eventually lead to bankruptcy and emergency management for the city of Detroit. And even what happens even beyond in other spaces. I mean, what happens at 36th District Court. A lot of those waves begin through the Detroit public school system, of which you've been advocating being present for the best conditions for students, starting back to when Coleman Young was a state senator.
You know, he and I didn't get along for a long time, and he became my best friend. And that brings up something else. Joanne Watson and a whole lot of people that nobody ever talks about. We had a hidden agenda for years, and we met once a week in Coleman Young's office, and none of us ever told what went on. I was the person that they sent out into the schools, got beat up all the time, read the papers, everybody that knows what happened. I was definitely beat up, mistreated, tried to be killed. They burnt my house. They set a fire downstairs in the basement when I was out with the school system. A whole lot of history hasn't been told. Joanne Watson and I kept all the records. We were going to get the story to everybody, and she passed away. Now, I have all the information. They gave them to Coleman and everything. You keep this. This is important for our children and for our people. If you would believe the information that we have, the history from Africa and all over, brave people that were killed and mistreated because of racism, I have it. Twice we were supposed to have a meeting and talk about it, and both reporters passed away in the middle of getting all the information from me. I still have boxes of information on the real radical way that Black people were treated in Detroit and all over this country. I do not belong to one group. I belong to several out of Chicago, etc. And I've got all this information. Joanne and I were supposed to get it together. Now, what do I do with it? Boxes of it. You all will not believe what I have. The history of our people and how brave some of our people. I was still getting beat up at the school board meetings 4 years ago till they stopped it.
Well,
Joanne stopped it. And she brought all the people in the community to the meeting, and she told me, you stand next to me and don't you open your mouth. And so the line was all in the back of this board meeting. I stood next to her, and she said, if you ever touch her again, you keep beating her up and everything, you're beating up her people. If you ever touch her again, you got all of us to deal with. And I have never been touched again. So that tells you what we can do as a group. We can stop the crazy stuff they're doing, like nowadays with the president or whatever that man is. We can stop those things if we just get ourselves together and know who we are. We are some of the bravest people that ever lived in the United States of America. Our people shouldn't even be here. And now they're still trying to get rid of some of us, but guess what? They don't know who all we are because we're mixed up. They did it in slavery. They put the white man on the Black woman, and y'all know the situation. And nowadays, they don't know what to do, but the president is trying to get rid of us. How do you get rid of us when you were with our women and doing all the things that we Black and we look white and we got gray eyes? How do you get rid of us? You don't know.
Well, I definitely would say for the current administration that's in office now, I have a classic rule of I try not to make sense out of nonsense. And at this point,
it's crazy,
as they say. And to some of what you speak about in the history, I know a person may be looking at this thinking like, oh, this is like hyperbole. It doesn't make sense. But I can definitely speak more so from the movement where my parents were more involved.
Yes, they were.
And specific, I remember, we definitely, rest in peace, Marie Thornton. Marie Thornton was a board member of the Detroit Public Schools at one point in time, but before, she was definitely one of the key organizers in the Keep the Vote, Keep the Vote,
no takeover
movement. She was there, and kind of even through the archives of Detroit is different. I see different bits and pieces of a lot of this story, and I will. When time avails and I have some interest, we're going to talk because I kind of see it all kind of come together from a different lens. Really a lot from an interview with Kwame Kenyatta, rest in peace, Kwame Kenyatta.
Yes.
Before he passed, where he really opens up so much about when he was on school board and what led to a shift of the Detroit Public School curriculum in English and history shifting to an African-centered curriculum. And during that time, that was also running concurrent where it was $1 billion bond that was passed in Detroit for Detroit Public Schools. And this was a time when I'm in Detroit Public Schools, and this is the third largest school district in America.
Right.
And what Kwame Kenyatta says, even to get that to happen, this wave and this movement really begins going back to the late 1960s, early 70s, when it was many waves of students, like Baba Malik Yakini, and he was actually in middle school or junior high school, and we think of Attorney Jeff Edison, and many others that were at that point in time asking for Black history classes.
Right.
And it was many walkouts. Kwame Kenyatta's a part of that wave. This connection to...
I was part of it too.
Oh, you were big in this as well.
It
and
was
I'm speaking
something
more
else.
so in the student.
Yes.
And he was from Cooley. He was never admitted back into Detroit Public Schools.
Right.
And this is where I guess the roots of not just a freedom school movement starts, but also African-centered schooling model really begins with the seeds of another key anchor. Rest in peace, Mama Imani Humphrey, one of the founders of Aisha Shule, and also such as yourself, that right now is you're on the member of the Council of Elders, which is a cohort of brothers and sisters throughout the African-centered community that look at resolving some of those interpersonal conflicts or challenges that exist in our community in our own ways, so that we can have ways of discourse and not necessarily trust systems that are more so placed upon us. So like all of this stuff in my mind starts having deep connections as you have, these teenagers in the 60s and 70s that end up growing up and saying, hey, we want to change these systems. And Kwame Kenyatta and many others start at WC3, having these series of waves of African-centered education curriculum. So they build like all the pedagogy with the psychologists and all of these things. And I mean, there's a run of I guess Jawaza Kinjufu may be one of the larger names that people can go. Rest in peace, Jawaza Kinjufu. And that's coming here to the city of Detroit and interacting with WC3 and many of these sisters that learn how to navigate the systems of all of these things. And then it kind of gets to a point in that late 90s where the Detroit Public Schools switches curriculums. And what Kwame Kenyatta said is, after that happened, he was like, man, we as a school board received so many calls from Huffington Miller and Texas Instruments, all of the institutions that provide the assets that go into schools, like these books that just for days, because it's just known that, you got the third largest school district and we're just going to have these kids read Shakespeare and To Kill a Mockingbird. And now you have to shift and build a book that is paying, the writers of Broadside Press here, the Dudley Randalls, and then even other artists like Gwendolyn Brooks, Amiri Baraka, Maya Angelou. And that shift in money impacted a lot more than what was thought. And that's where John Engler ends up like imposing and things just start shifting. And I mean, when you talk about Wayne State, David Adamany steps in as the first imposed emergency manager over a Detroit public school district. And
I'm following
that
you.
$1 billion bond that was voted
Took
on
over our school system.
not only took over the school system, took over the school system in a surplus that voters voted upon for this $1 billion. And then when it's quote unquote given back, now it's in a deficit. And that kind of runs concurrent, similar to the city of Detroit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're functioning to operate in a budget. And what's tough, similar to the city of Detroit, is and this was what really moved my mom and dad to join the Keep the Vote No Takeover
They
movement.
were part
It's
of
the
us.
fact that I vote for this board. And this board now is imposed from someone else from, not our city that we didn't vote for. They make all of the financial decisions. They run it into a debt. We voted for this bond so that it could go to our schools. And now this money is gone. So many of the connection of these contractors from across the world, many from California, New Jersey, but definitely none of the people that we would think in a consciousness of the school board at the time that took over with the African-centered consciousness. I could only imagine a school board at that time that transitioned to an African-centered curriculum, the amount of contractors that would interact, and also the opportunities for the third largest school district in America.
Well, do you know when they took over the school system, they thought it was all over, and they didn't realize that we were organized enough to get it back. It's the funniest story. Nobody will believe what we went through. Back and forth to Lansing, we would go up there. And it would be a car full of us, our people. And we would stand in front of all the legislators and everything, and they were not going to give us our schools back. And we had a lot of black people that were on their side.
Yeah.
But the day came when they took the 14, I think it was about 14 schools, that they said they're going to let their people educate these 14 schools. And so for a couple of years, they had 14 of our schools, and they had their own people in there educating. Guess what? 14 of those schools were failing, and we kept up with it. So we go to Lansing, keep the vote no takeover, all the black folks with us. And we say to them, did you know that our school are failing and that you took these schools from us? But we have to take tests. All the other schools have to take tests. Why aren't your kids that you have taking tests? We kept saying that every meeting we would go to. They said, okay, we're sick of this woman standing up before us and telling us we ain't doing the right thing. So they gave the tests, all these thousands of children, about 4,000. And guess what happened? Only one child passed the test out of them thousands of black children that they took to school system. See, nobody knows this history. I have it all. And guess what they did? They threw up their hands and said, give them the school system back. But they gave it back to us, but guess what? They had a bill when they took over with our school system. The money was left with us. All the debts was left with us.
Yeah.
We tried to get them to do something about the debts and give us our money back. And most people, the people that we're talking to now, do not even look at their tax bill and find out that they're paying 2 school bills.
I think what you uplift similar, even when we think about what happens in the city of Detroit. So like what runs concurrent, even what happened with 36 districts. So I look at this as a series of attacks on the black power system that was just here in the city of Detroit. I mean, depending upon who you talk to in a legal realm, they'll take it back to the closing of Recorder's Court. But it's many of these entities that a lot from these Detroiters different interviews I'm privy of hearing, and what you speak of in one of those systems that I can say that run concurrent was also an EAA system that was chartered through, but still not connected. And it would be tough because at times, as you talk about some of our people, there would be people in leadership, in community that would join and align themselves in things that definitely were not in the arc of the self-determined movements that we had. Like,
when is this show supposed to be? I want everybody to see that they need to look at their bills, their tax bill, and find out that they're paying 2 school taxes. And most people don't look at that and see. They should have gotten rid of that first tax when they were taking over the school system. But they said you can have the school system back, but you have to keep the...
But I mean, similar to the city of Detroit, and similar to what happened with 36 District, which is now back in arms. I mean, when we look at like what happens in the debts, these are the circumstances, and more so as you talk about the resilience of a lot of that power structure in Black Detroit that still exists. So I think there are still so many triumphs, and even when I think of like sitting in this rec center named after you, with you today, all your 90 years young.
I keep calling it the Dexter-Elmhurst Center. People say, Mrs. Moore, you got to use your name. I've done it so long.
Hey, you were here when that's what it was.
Yes,
you know
that's the truth. And your mother, we were such good friends. Oh, you know, Sundays, your mother could cook. I'm a good cook from the South. I'm from Tennessee. We both cook. When I come over her house and we were meeting together, you all were there, but you didn't know that several of us were back there and she was serving us food and everything. Do you remember those days?
I remember a lot of the organizing. This is how,
That's what we were doing.
This is how, Mama Watson becomes my my godmother.
Oh,
This is
I have something to say
my
about
connections to, like I say, I mean, the reason I'm speaking these names is because I like meet these people, some younger, some older, but like the Marie Thorntons and Agnes Hitchcock, Maureen Taylor, and so many others. I mean, here's another one that's still in that lane, but definitely in more of that revolutionary spirit, Cicero Love, and many of these people that are present in community, and not only just present in community, but very active in like ways to organize, because I mean, we still in the city of Detroit. A lot of the organizing spirit and look and the tact for this comes from people that were in labor movements. So I mean, shout out to definitely General Baker. And also, Marion Kramer. Marion is, you know what I'm saying? She's the biggest fighter. You know what I'm saying? We love her.
But you know what? We have a whole lot. You're bringing a whole lot back to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm remembering some of those days when we were really in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
They beat us up so bad. Y'all didn't know how bad they beat us up.
I was very aware with many instances, I think, that happened, like even where
when we were at
my
school
father,
meetings. Yes.
My father's a certified public accountant, has been... like that was where he really got activated in that movement. But I remember even the wave of some of the people he did business with, seeing, because oftentimes during some of these, some of the board meetings of this imposed board upon people, things would, similar to, I guess, the civil rights movement. So like when things would turn to violence, the way that it would be looked at and framed was as if the people that were organizing and protesting against something that's being imposed upon us are the people that are inciting a lot of this violence. So this definitely goes into the attacks on you, Mama Shoshana Shakur, Chokwe's sister, and many others. So like some of this, I can turn on the television and see my father looking to defend, Marie Thornton, that I say, like, I mean, really the attacks of this. And this is like, I mean, some of the people involved in this, when we think about it, as you say, some of the people, Freeman Hendricks and many others, that are sitting there, and this really builds more of the tension, because a lot of this is more so the whole premise of something being imposed upon people that we never had a choice to vote for, but now you're making decisions of what should happen. It kind of goes back to, like, I mean, we can go through the list of, David Adamany, to Mr. Burnley, to Connie Calloway, to Robert Bobb. You know what I'm saying? And just all the different waves of people that are, quote unquote, like, I guess, these master educators, which is not necessarily an attack on who they are. And I mean, for the city, Kevin Orr and Jones Day, it's more so that as a person that's a resident of a place where I vote, my say and what I'm doing matters most. And this is really the crux of a lot of the challenges, because now as others come in with whatever education they have, what they don't have is the trust, the relationship and the bond with community, where sadly it will lead to, as you say, a lot of assault.
Do you believe that now, since we've gone all through that, you're bringing some things up in my mind that I even forgot about? Do you really believe truly that they really want our children to be educated?
Okay, now that's a deep question.
It sure is.
That's a deep question.
I want you to think about it.
I got a response that I usually share. I think that, so this is just a Khary Frazier opinion. I think that America never really had a goal of any child being educated, white, black, or whatever. I think that the education system that is offered, public schools, was a necessary element to transition the agricultural worker into an industrial worker. So
they don't need us anymore, do they?
Well,
so
I
what
definitely
are we doing?
think right now,
what we doing?
It's different. But the biggest people investing in a lot of the public school systems were the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Van Burens, because, at that point in time, even with child labor, I mean, people were dying in a lot of the industries. So hence that what creates the design of most schools looking like a lot of the factories.
All right, let's bring it up to nowadays. How is I don't even like to call him the president, but that maniac out there, how is he going to separate us by color when we're all mixed up with their color?
I would say
they don't want us to took our children and raped them and our parents and everything. So he's after getting rid of us. So how are they going to get rid of us when we're mixed up with them? And they did it.
I would say this in reference to the current president. I'm gonna go back to I can't make sense out of nonsense, but in reference to I'll say this often in Detroit is different. I think that America is designed for white men that have businesses and property. So the further you move away from being that, I'm not saying it won't work for you, but it's kind of like the analogy I always use is if your car is running and you need antifreeze, you can stop and put a little bit of water in there and it can kind of get going. That's kind of what I think America's like for many other people. So meaning it can function, and even these school systems, and even with the functionality, especially when it comes to our people, the amount of creativity that comes from those non-antifreeze solutions is wow. It just kind of shows the brilliance in it. And also that same functionality as we look at it, we got to also think that I think a lot of the roots of who we are have been here longer, and then also the institution of what it is. Because I always say, if you took Detroit away from Michigan, this is North Dakota. If you took Black people away from America, it's some country in Europe you ain't never heard of.
All right, I got to ask you another question. If my grandfather was a slave and he built the first Black school in Newport, Tennessee, and he built some of the buildings down there, and he became one of the richest Black people in my hometown. How did that work? How did he fool the white people so much that they actually went along with his program? Because the school he built for Black people, he had a white man buy the property.
Well, I would say, from what I recall from our interview, and also the many comments, when I say this, I'm so mad that our Facebook account got hacked, but I want to say that video had maybe 5,000 comments of different people talking about how enslavement happened, because you just showed back to, I say, our creativity and our brilliance. Your grandfather took what would be looked at as waste and not valuable. And he was able to start with collecting coal. And then from collecting coal, he turns that into a business. From building that business, he looks at other businesses. This is back to, I say, our creativity and our brilliance is dynamic. So I would look at the root of it
if we use it and don't think of ourselves as slaves.
I mean, I think we do. We do use it. And that's where
many of us
many things.
But every day I have to fight some of our people.
We do. I mean,
I have to fight some of our people because they're not talking like we are. And sometimes I have to tell them, don't talk to me no more.
I got you. I have waves of consciousness myself. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna tell you. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in a hip hop generation. I'll probably be listening to Easy tomorrow.
I just want to bring some of that out because when we play this, you and I guess we would be militant. Are we militant?
I definitely think we have touched a lot of things where many people would consider this militant revolutionary, and I don't necessarily even put myself in that arc. I'm just a person putting these pieces together. It's logic to me.
Well, I don't take no mess, but anyway, one time when they were arresting our people at the school board meeting, one of the police officers, and I don't know his name, but I will never forget that man, what he did. They were coming after me, and he came over to me and grabbed me, and he whispered in my ear, "Don't do anything. I got you covered." That's the only time a police officer, it was Black, ever did that. The rest of them didn't mind snatching us. My finger's still broken where they mess with me. But this police officer actually whispered in my ear. He said, I got you covered. And how come we can't get some more of our people to do that?
I think that there are many people that got it covered. And on that note, I think we got a good close here. I'm going to add some photos in the mix of this and everything. But in that same arc, I do, maybe I'm looking at the world through more rose-colored glasses. I think it's a lot of people that necessarily are not necessarily as awakened. And I will hope that even in me, we can hit different ways of consciousness where we all definitely function better when we connect with one another. So that's one thing. And in honor to a little bit of what you just said, rest in peace, Reverend Jesse Jackson. He has an album.
Good friend of mine in Selma, Alabama.
He has an album that he did with legendary jazz artist Cannonball Adderley, where it is a jazz man and a preacher. And he talk about the difference between black and white police. So just check that and go in the archive and you can listen to some Jesse Jackson talk a little bit about what you were saying. I love it. I love it.
All my people. I go to Selma, Alabama. I know a lot of them and everything. We're still going to make it. We're going to be free one day. But I go to meetings and I ask everybody in the place, black and white, are we free? And I said, if you raise your hand, if you black, I'm going to come over there and knock you out. Well, we ain't free yet.
Well,
but we try to get there.
I may just keep my hand down because I don't want to get assaulted, but I feel you. I love it. So,
I love being here with you, too.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
So now I got to close. Usually I got my classic Detroit is different questions, but I got to ask some more so in art questions. You got Mario. We in the art room. We got a heck of a picture that people going to see throughout this. So in this art, what's your favorite art and what's the most talented art that you've offered to others?
I stole his art. When I found out he was an artist and was doing that good and he would paint over my house, he would leave the pictures and say, I'm not taking that. That's no good. He wouldn't take them. So I got them. And that's all I'm going to say.
That's all you're going to say? You're not going to give me no poetry?
I ain't going to tell him. I'm not going to tell the world anything. I got the pictures, okay?
Okay, so I guess you were, I guess like you're like a ghost artist.
Yes, that's
for
right.
Mario.
I was grandma.
That's great.
Okay.
You can do that. You can do that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always.
God bless you.
Always. Peace. That's what Detroit is different.
Detroit is different.